keeping you up to speed on all your Colorado teams. It's time for Coffee Break.
A happy hump day to you all. Welcome into Coffee Break. Last night, we got to see the Avs get back on the horse a little bit. We're one day closer to Broncos-Colts, which has some pretty significant playoff implications. And the Nuggets, well, they've got some stuff to figure out still, in my opinion. And I'm going to share those opinions with the one and only Jake Shapiro, who's joined me here on the split screen. Jake, how are you, my friend?
Enjoying my coffee. This, I guess, afternoon is when this show is technically, but enjoying my coffee.
That is true. Hey, 12 p.m. noon is not too late to have coffee. I've got some just off camera here that I partake in myself. Jake, I got a lot of Avs and Nuggets stuff, as I mentioned, that I want to get into with you, but I'm going to take a little moment to hijack the start of the show here with a topic that we did not have planned, but I've been seeing it buzzing around the headlines so far this morning, and it's kind of a combo deal here. One, you have some rumblings going around social media and other places about Bill Belichick reportedly, allegedly, getting close to finalizing a deal with the University of North Carolina to become their next head football coach, which is one of those things where you could have offered me any amount of money in the world that wouldn't happen, and I would take it. But it appears we may genuinely be reaching toward that. And then we have reports from Shams Charania and Brian Windhorst and others about the potential for the Golden State Warriors to go after the likes of Jimmy Butler and LeBron James, and Windhorst adding a caveat that any trade that involves LeBron James would also have to include Bronny James in all likelihood. And I bring those two stories together because it's been reported that a deal between UNC and Bill Belichick would also have stipulations in place that would help guarantee future job assurances for his son, who we've seen spend time on his staffs in the past. And I got to say it, Jake, and it's not like nepotism and professional sports have never been intertwined in the past. But if both of these things are true and both of these things end up happening, it may be a point where I have to throw my hands up and say, we're taking nepotism too far.
Yeah, let me be clear. I am not a Nepo baby. Some people think I am related to some other Shapiros that have been in the Denver sports media. So I am not actually an expert on this topic, like what some people might think. The Facebook comments are not kind.
It's good to get that out there.
Yes. I am in favor of people working to earn their craft. I do think Bronny James is a legitimate professional basketball player. Is he an NBA player? Probably not. I understand what LeBron's power is. And the fact of the matter is, Richie, look at what Juan Soto made this week. $780 million or 761, something like that. Do you know how much Tom Brady and LeBron James have made combined in their careers?
No, but I bet you're going to tell me.
$760 million, less than Juan Soto's current deal. So LeBron James has been underpaid his entire career. Patrick Mahomes, Tom Brady, all these guys in salary cap sports are underpaid. So if you can get power back by employing your son, or in Giannis's case, his brother, or in Bill Belichick's case, where there is no salary cap, he has the ultimate power of give me money and my son a job. More power to you, because ultimately you're taking power away from billionaires, ultimately, who I believe to be, they're going to be the Nepo people after all. Like, who's going to inherit?
Oh, yeah. Look at the front office staff of the Dallas Cowboys. It is nepotism on a poster. But Jake, this is where I think I'm going to actually have to disagree with you a little bit. And I expose myself with a potentially unfavorable take, which is that a lot of these times I find myself being pro-billionaire because I think that I would do similar things if I was in their shoes, which just unfortunately for me, I'm not. But I agree with you that I think, Bronny James be playing in Tasmania or for the Jackrabbits of some European league or whatever in Russia? Sure. But I think that it's troublesome for me on two fronts, because you say LeBron's taking power back by securing his son a job. LeBron James has been underpaid for his whole career, but let's not act like LeBron James, who has $1 billion lifetime deal with Nike, is struggling to make ends meet.
That's because LeBron James is a shoe salesman, not a basketball player.
Yeah, and that's a reality of a modern day NBA, I think, more so than anything. But I don't understand how Bronny James could just go get his own job. It might not be as good of a job. And I just don't think that forcing a team to have to saddle this person who doesn't deserve to be here is something that LeBron needs to do.
Do you want LeBron James or not?
That's
Is the
tough.
cost of employing his son on a two-way contract really going to stop you from getting LeBron James? Really?
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on who. Like, do I want him here as a Nuggets fan? Do I want him here? I mean,
Richie, you're taking Jalen Pickett out of a job. Are you getting LeBron James and his son? Like, come on, man.
I got it. Well, I want to get to that point on the Nuggets because one of the other names I mentioned in those reports is Jimmy Butler. And while the Nuggets were not on his initial list of teams he'd be willing to waive his no trade clause for and kind of be interested in, he is interested in playing for a contending team. And depending on your glass half full, glass half empty view of the Nuggets and their current situation, they could fall into that category. I'm going to acknowledge up front that Jimmy's price tag and his player option, along with other things you'd have to move with the second apron and such, would make it difficult for the Nuggets probably to make something happen there. But I want to open up the Jimmy Butler discussion into a larger discussion of whether it's Jimmy Butler or not. Do you think the Nuggets have to make some kind of shake up the monopoly board move here in order to regain some footing as a true title contender?
Let me just ask you this. What are you looking for them to add? What do you believe to be their need?
Well, they don't have nearly enough volume or quality 3-point shooting, I think, for sure. And none of the moves that they've made have truly supported that. And I guess more so than just a specific need, like, hey, they're weak at the 3-point line, or they need help at the 4. They need a backup center for Jokic. More so than that, I just think that Jokic needs more help than what he currently has. And I think it's a tough situation to be in because they have 4 high-value contract players around them in their starting 5, plus Christian Brown. And it's hard to sit there and say, like, hey, well, those guys just have to figure it out. We just have to watch the dice fall and hope that we hit a 7. I think that's tricky when the pressure is on where it's on with the limited window and the shrinking window that they may have.
Okay, so here's the thing. The Nuggets can really not make a trade where they get more talent in than talent out. There's just very few moves that they can make where that ends up being the situation. They have one tradable first round pick, and that's all the way out in 2031. They don't have any tradable second picks. So they can attach a first round pick with Christian Brown or Peyton Watson and get back another player. But in that case, in that circumstance, they're only going to be able to get a player making a couple $1 million because you have to match salaries in the NBA when you're over the salary cap like the Nuggets are. You can add Zeke Najee's contract and then get a player up to value of about $8 million. But unless you are trading one of the core 4 guys,
which is what I'm getting at,
able to get someone making $20+ million a year. And beside that, beside the whole logistics of the trade part, Jimmy Butler, who we both agree, the Nuggets need 3-point shooting, and they need guys who can shoot from volume and shoot from percentage from there. Jimmy Butler this year, Richie, is shooting 2.5 threes a game at 36%, which is about his career mark, maybe a little bit better percentage-wise, but he doesn't shoot threes. Jimmy Butler does not help the Nuggets. And trust me, I really like Jimmy Butler, one of my favorite players in the NBA. I've often said the only person I would switch lives with in the entire world is Jimmy Butler. He is one of the coolest people on the planet. I love Jimmy Butler. Like, completely, I love Jimmy Butler. Adore this guy. But he just doesn't help the Nuggets in the way they need. Richie hasn't played shooting guard since 2018 in the NBA. The Nuggets need that spot. That's what they would probably play him at, as at shooting guard. They put him next to Porter and Gordon, or if you're moving out Porter, you're putting him at small forward. And then you've got 2 guys next to each other at the forward gunner spots who really don't shoot threes at a volume. So Jimmy does not help the Nuggets. He does not help them defend either, which is one of their primary problems right now. So unfortunately,
really, you don't think Jimmy Butler's defensive presence would be a net positive for the Nuggets? I mean, I'm not saying he's like a lockdown defensive player of the year, but you don't think he plays good enough defense to be a net positive in that regard?
I don't think 35-year-old Jimmy Butler is the defender you believe him to be and solves the issues that the Nuggets need him to solve. The thing is, the Nuggets have a lot of big body defenders. Like, they're pretty solid against scoring wings like Luka Doncic or LeBron James, or maybe even an Anthony Davis or a big man like Joel Embiid. The area where they struggle is perimeter guards that can shoot threes and get off quickly. That's where the Nuggets have had problems all year, whether it's Norm Powell, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, even Jordan Poole. The Nuggets can't guard these guys. They need a guy who can get around screens. Jimmy Butler at 6'6", at 35 years old, cannot get around screens. That's the Nuggets' problem. So as much as I like Jimmy Butler in terms of the talent and the mentality he adds to the Nuggets, that's huge. I don't think they need the things he actually adds on the basketball floor. And to me, the problem with the Nuggets is, one, a talent problem and a construction problem. It's not actually the mentality problem with the team. I think Nikola Jokic is a way better leader than people know. And if you're reading Mike Singer's book right now, like I am, you're learning a lot about Jokic, the leader.
Okay, good plug for Mike Singer's book there. We love Mike. I can't wait to read the book myself. I'm glad you reminded me of that, because I'm about to go buy it as soon as we get off the air here. But no, those you hit on the things that I wanted to talk about, because while I acknowledged up front, logistically speaking, very difficult to bring in Jimmy Butler, with his current situation. But a defensive presence and the mentality were two of the other things that I wanted to bring in, setting the volume 3-point shooting aside. So with that said, I agree with you. I think it's difficult, but I think the Avs and the Nuggets are both in similar positions. The Avs had a glaring need to do something about their goaltending problem, and they did it. They shipped out both goalies in the room and brought in the Woods.
But the thing with the Avs, Richie, is those moves, while they did give up a second-round pick and their starting goalie, who some regard to be a very good goalie in the NHL, they didn't involve core members of their team or key assets. The Avs had avenues to improve their roster, to get guys here who are role players, who are decent players. The Nuggets can't even really acquire role players unless they move a core member of their team. So that's where the Avs and Nuggets differ in terms of—
You are correct. They have the same problem, but the construction is different. The Avs are not getting what they need out of the core role players that they have paid and locked down. The Avs, or the Nuggets weren't. The Avs are getting that, and it's an outside problem that's preventing it from maximizing the ability of those players. But I do think that at the end of the day, something has to change for the Nuggets, the same way the Avs have made a change, and we will see how that pans out. So, Jake, what do the Nuggets need to do? Because on this current trajectory, it's hard to imagine them hoisting a Larry O'Brien, or potentially even being in a final series for a Larry O'Brien right now.
Yeah, if you make Jake Shapiro the GM of the Nuggets tomorrow, the first move I'm making is I'm cutting Jalen Pickett and I'm signing Justin Holiday to a contract. Justin Holiday is still a free agent. He's still out there. We saw how valuable he was and became a trusted member of Michael Malone's team last year. He can hit threes. He can do just about everything on the floor. No, he's not a star player. He's not even really a great role player at this point in his career. I mean, he's in his late 30s, but he can be a body. And at this point, the Nuggets need bodies. Like we saw in Washington, what the Nuggets roster looks like when just two of their starters can't play, because Dario Saric is unplayable, Zeke Naji's unplayable, and two guys who probably would be in their rotation this year, Vlatko Čančar and Daron Holmes, are out of the lineup for the year because of their injuries. So the Nuggets need, first off, they just need another body. So that solves my issue in Holiday for Pickett. Then I'm probably stapling a first-round pick to Zeke Naji and hoping I can get Jayshawn Tate back from the Rockets. He had some depth to their forward spot. He's not a backup big per se, but he would allow them to play Aaron Gordon at the backup center position a little bit more comfortably. And Jayshawn Tate is not playing for the Rockets right now because they have so much depth in that roster, and they have no idea what they want to do with that roster. He's a very capable role player in the NBA. And unfortunately, you're not going to be able to get Kenrich Williams from the Thunder, who's in that same exact spot with the Thunder, who can do all those same things, but is a little bit better. By the way, former Nugget. So that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the Nuggets making some minor role player moves that aren't that sexy. Ultimately, Richie, the Nuggets constructed themselves in their starting five. What it is today will be that in the playoffs, no matter what they do, unless they make just a crazy trade, which I do not see in their future. So can they find something in the next 3 months to help benefit their roster, to carry them through the regular season, to get them into better health for the regular season? And can they find another role player so when they come playoff time, they can go 7-8 deep? Because right now they're about 6-7 deep, maybe depending on the night with Julian Strawther, because Peyton Watson just has not been it. So those are the two areas I'm looking to address if I'm the Nuggets going to the trade deadline. Can I get another role player just to be a body and get me through the 82? And can I get another role player to be one of my rotation guys come playoff time?
Hey, I co-sign it all. I think that's a lucid, well thought out plan. My follow-up question to you is, if they don't do those things, if they don't follow the advice of GM Jake Shapiro and they keep things as is, which is not out of the realm of possibility for them to do, your response would be what, and it means what for the ceiling of this Nuggets team this year?
They'll probably be somewhere between the 3rd and the 6th seed, if I had to be realistic. And we're all panicking right now. The Nuggets just had a really rough stretch of their schedule. The next 15 games, I talked about this in the Mile High Hoops podcast. The Nuggets have a real chance of going, I think it was like 8-3 or something like that. I said over the next 11 games because of their opponents. And I know the Nuggets aren't playing well, but if you look at who they're playing next, it's pretty bleak for those opponents. So the Nuggets could find themselves in a spot, Richie, where they're like 20-12, 20-13 after the stretch of games. And that's the type of record that's going to end you in somewhere between the 3 and the 6. I think the Nuggets will probably win a playoff series as well. Nikola Jokic in the playoffs is just a monster to deal with. And the fact of the matter is the Nuggets are the best team in basketball when Nikola Jokic is on the floor, and he's not going to come off the floor in the playoffs. But ultimately, come second round when they're playing someone better, it's going to be too hard to overcome. So that's where the Nuggets ceiling is today if they don't make a move, at least in my eyes. They're a step below a contender. They're a very good NBA team today, and I understand why people are panicking, because we literally are seeing the greatest season from an NBA player ever. It's Steph Curry, it's Michael Jordan, it is Wilt Chamberlain, all combined into one. And it is so fun to watch. And unfortunately, his teammates aren't doing enough to propel this team into being a championship level team.
What's wrong with Jamal Murray?
I keep saying, give me 10 games or so on this. I'm still there. The thing that's interesting right now is he just missed those 2 games on the road, which was kind of bizarre. I expected him to miss one of them because of a back-to-back, but missing both was really interesting. During the Cleveland game, which is the last time we saw him play, his mentality and his body language was just atrocious that entire night. And the thing that's wrong with Jamal is now bleeding into his mental and the way he thinks about this game. And it's clear because in that Lakers series, he was really bad, but he kept shooting, and the Nuggets needed that aggression. Through Team Canada, through the injuries of this offseason, he comes back, and maybe it's because he's playing with literally maybe God reincarnated at center. I don't know, but he doesn't want to shoot. He seems tentative. He's not driving to the basket. And I know he's lost some burst, but he just isn't being aggressive. And that to me is part of the reasons why the Nuggets offense is so stagnated, is because of Jamal Murray is not being that guy that is, I am going to shoot the last shot, even if I shouldn't be the player on the court to shoot the last shot, which is what his mentality has been his entire career. And it's one of the reasons why he's been one of the best crunch time players. So give me another 10 games, only because history tells us Jamal Murray ramps up around this time of year. But if it does not turn around and start to turn around by Christmas, Richie, this is going to get very ugly very quick. It's already started to with some people panicking. I would not panic yet. Hold off just a little bit longer on the Jamal stuff. It's a long regular season. He's been banged up a couple times throughout it. And yeah, that's his story every year. And maybe he shouldn't be if he's a max contract player. And maybe he should be an all-star if he's a max contract player. The reality is you either had to give Jamal Murray a max contract to be here, or Jamal Murray was walking. And the Nuggets didn't have a better option.
Well, I'm kind of with you. My finger's not on the panic button yet, but it's getting itchy. I'm getting a little itchy as it comes to the Nuggets. The Avs, I'm still in wait-and-see mode as far as we'll see how Mackenzie Blackwood and Scott Wedgwood and the Woods kind of pan out in goal, and we'll see. I do think that in the short term, we've seen a reinvigoration of the top lines, especially offensively. I mean, a 6-2 drubbing of the Penguins last night, and I just feels like there's a little bit of exhale from some of those players, and hopefully the Nuggets can find something similar too, because I agree with you. If things continue down this trajectory, it could be it could be a little bit of a bummer vibe around Christmas time here in Denver when it comes to the Nuggets. Jake, tell us what we should be keeping an eye out for at denversports.com.
Well, with Richie on the Avs, I guarantee you if they play the Wild in a playoff series, they will beat them because you cannot see the forest through the trees.
Hey.
Denversports.com today. We've got some stuff about who should have been maybe the Broncos starting quarterback after John Elway retired. That's breaking right now. Will Peterson's on that. We've also got some stuff with the Broncos, and we're going to hear from all the coaches today as they approach this giant game against the Colts. Their whole season basically comes down to the next, 15 days here, counting that next Thursday game. So that's fascinating. And then we have some awesome Heisman coverage coming your way. We've got a person out in New York Friday and Saturday. So me and him will be teaming up, and we'll have all the latest and greatest about Travis Hunter winning the Heisman this weekend. Only the second time an athlete from the University of Colorado has done that, joining the legend, Rashaan Salam.
I will be locked into it all, as you should out there at Denver Sportscom on all of our socials. Check us out on YouTube. So much content from Jake and Will and Cecil and Mace. All of our Denver Sports 104.3 The Fan hosts available to you. Like, subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.